Salutations, my mathematically advanced spectators. Quickly, think of the largest possible number that your conscious mind can produce. Now just think of the largest possible number. You can't, can you? Well, it is quite evident that there is no largest possible number because the number line is infinite. Just a quick heads up. If you're allergic to numbers, then this video will eliminate you. Mathematician Edward Cancer was a prominent American mathematician, a tutor in Columbia University, and the first Jew to have a faculty position in sciences at Columbia University. His main study was differential geometry, but he's most famously known for his invention of a googol. No, not Google, a googol. A googol is a 1 with 100 zeros behind it, or more simplistically, 10 to the power of 100. In order to pique the interest of children, Cancer sought a name for a very large number. When Edward Cancer was on a walk in the New Jersey Palisades, he told his 9-year-old nephew, Milton Sirota, about this number and asked him to name it. At the same time, a googolplex was invented, also named by Milton Sirota. A googolplex was first suggested to be a 1 with as many zeros behind it until one got tired. But this was comparatively paradoxical because the duration of a dexterous and in many cases nimble entry would have a prolonged row of zeros compared to a quickly fatigated participant. And thus it was decided to fabricate a googolplex as a finite number with a specific yet abundant amount of zeros, which the zeros amount soon became a googol. In 1940, mathematician Edward Cancer published the book Mathematics and the Imagination, in which he popularized the words googol and googolplex. Now, as I've said before, a googol is 10 to the power of 100, which is a lot easier than writing out 10 with 100 zeros behind it. And so too can a googolplex be written as 10 to the power of a googol, or more simplistically, 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 100, since 10 to the power of 100 is already a googol. Now, writing out a googol is fast and simple, but writing out a googolplex is nearly impossible. To understand how long it would take to write out a googolplex, we must first look at how big a googol is. But let's start with a more petite number to explain this. 10. We all know 10 is 1 with 1 0 behind it. But to understand the size of 10, we must first go ahead and write out the numbers from 1 to 10.
Now here I am going to add a number line from 1 to 10. So let's add a 0 under each number. So we have zeros to the size of 10, which is 10 zeros. If we add a 1 in front of this, we will get a really large number, which is 10 billion. Now you can already see the size difference between the two numbers. If you divide 10 billion by 10, you would simply get 1 billion, not much of a difference.
If you still don't understand how long it would take to write out a googolplex, no worries. Fortunately for you, someone did have the required amount of time at their disposal.
There is a website on the internet known as googolplexwrittenout.com. But you could just search a googolplex written out, and this should be the first website the browser gives you. The googolplex is written out through a number of volumes, and they literally went and wrote 1 with 94 zeros behind it. Yes, I counted the zeros, where they could have just written 10 to the power of 94 or 10 trigentillion volumes. Now, this website should really give you some insight on how big a googol and or googolplex is. Each volume contains 1,000,000 zeros, and the first volume starts with an additional 1, and the last volume, the 10 trijentillionth volume, ends with the 10 quadrillion 0 of the Googol quiz.
Okay, so 10 duotrigentillion is actually a Googol. It's just that a Googol doesn't sound adequate. And all these Brobdingnagian numbers are probably sounding quite baffling to you. Instead, it's actually quite simple. I'll explain.
We will embark with 1 and I will just continuously add zeros as I explain this. On the left you will see the number, in the middle you will see the name of that number, and on the right you will see its scientific notation as 10 to the power of that number. Now if we add a 0 to 1 we would simply get 10. But if we continuously add zeros we will get 100,000 all the way to 100 million. Now at 100 million is where people start to get confused. Is it 1,000 million or a billion? The answer is it is a billion, then 10 billion, and then 100 billion. Then it would go on to a trillion, 10 trillion, 100 trillion, and so it continues. And in my demonstration it would continue to 100 quintillion. What I want you to notice here is how everything goes 1, 10, 100, 1, 10, 100, 1, 10, 100. I've highlighted for you in this demonstration, and as you might have noticed in the center I added 1 to each stand-alone number, such as 1,000, a million, a billion. I made 1,000, 1 million, 1 billion, etc. And another thing I want you to notice is that every 3 zeros is known as a new number, which I've also highlighted here, and which we will in the future be using at 10 to the power of 369, so you know what. Okay. So let's continue the sequel but speed it up a little bit. We will go trillion, quadrillion, quintillion, sextillion, septillion, octillion, nonillion. So as you might have see on the right, I just continuously add 3 zeros instead of going through 10 trillion, 100 trillion, and then quadrillion and so on. Okay, stop that. Alright, so let's speed up the process by just adding the 3 zeros and leaving out 10 and 100 of that number. We will start at a trillion. So you have a trillion, quadrillion, quintillion, sextillion, septillion, octillion, nonillion. Stop. Now, everything has a sequel. At this moment, the sequel begins. The sequel works as the following. It's not an actual sequel, okay. So let's speed up the process by skipping 10 and 100. In other words, adding 3 zeros all the time. We will start at a trillion. So we get a trillion, quadrillion, quintillion, sextillion, septillion, octillion, and nonillion. Stop. The next number would be a decillion. Now from a decillion, a sequence would begin to start. The sequence is basically a prefix in front of that number. The prefixes being un, duo, tre, quatua, quin, sex, septien, octo, and novem. And then the sequel itself basically would be a decillion, a vigintillion, a trigentillion, etc. and so it goes on. So how the sequel works is you basically take a decillion and it would become 10 decillion, 100 decillion, and then undecillion as I have highlighted. Then it would become 10 undecillion, 100 undecillion, then duodecillion, and it goes 10, 100, the next prefix in the sequel. And it goes on until novem decillion, and then you will get to a vigintillion, which you will just repeat the sequel 10, 100, vigintillion, 10, 100, duo, 10, 100, tree, and so it goes on until novem, and you begin with a trigentillion, and it just continues. So now that you know this, you might also know why a Googol is the same as 10 duotrigentillion. If you look at trigentillion in the sequel, it's 10 to the power of 93. Now, add 3 zeros, it would be untrigentillion, which would be 10 to the power of 96. And 10 to the power of 99 would be duotrigentillion. If we add 1 0, that would be 10 duotrigentillion, which is 10 to the power of 100, which is also a Googol.
Alright everyone, that concludes part 1 of this episode. Part 2 will not be in my next video, but if you want to see part 2, just stay tuned, as they say.
So if you really like reading and you love knowing what's going to happen next in the books, then this book is the book for you because, well, who doesn't like reading zeros all the time? And then you will be done.